meet my bride. Let's go for a ride in my newfangled automobile. Just where we will go, nobody knows, but it's sure a great way to feel. Behind the wheel of the speed meter steel, it's my newfangled automobile.
Hello and welcome to Vintage Car History. I'm Wild Bill. Today's automotive industry is a homogeneous thing. It's hard to tell the various new makes and models apart at a glance, and sometimes not even with a good solid stare. Car makers around the world follow similar guidelines and laws and make components for each other. It's not uncommon today for an American car to be built in whole or part in some other country or countries. Yet this is not new at all. In fact, one of America's most respected vintage car makes was not made in the USA, but in Canada. So let's take a look at the man who made that happen, Sam McLaughlin. Robert Samuel McLaughlin was born in Enniskillen, Ontario in 1871. His father was also named Robert, so he went by Sam all his life. Daddy McLaughlin was a carriage builder, having established his factory in 1869. Young Sam was said to have wheels in his head as he spent a lot of time at the shop, and there was a particular incident where he got hit in the noggin pretty hard with a carriage wheel. Perhaps this incident is what prompted him to consider a career as a lawyer or perhaps a draftsman, but his dad requested he work in the family business, and so he apprenticed under his father, specifically as an upholsterer. The family and carriage operations had moved to Oshawa in 1877 due to the new train intermodal that was in town. With carriages and sleighs now able to be shipped all over southern Canada and the U.S., business boomed, and by 1890 the McLaughlin Carriage Company was the largest of its kind in the British Empire. Sam joined his father in the business as a partner in 1892, along with his younger brother George. And unlike his older brother John, who had a vision to make sparkling soda, he founded Canada Dried Ginger Ale, Sam still had wheels in his head. In 1899, the factory in Oshawa burned down and, of course, had to be rebuilt. During this time, Sam was seeing the goings-on in not-so-far-away Detroit, Michigan, and was bit by the car bug. McLaughlin believed, and correctly so, that the car would eventually replace the carriage, and rather than the company slowly dying on the vine, it was time to get into the car business. But he didn't want to just import American cars. He wanted to establish a proper car manufacturer in Canada, making everything in-house. He began his plan at the turn of the century, hiring an engineer to design and complete the car and then build it in Oshawa. Unfortunately, the engineer he hired fell ill not long after, and no designs were forthcoming. So he went to Michigan and looked around the auto industry there, even buying a couple of cars, Jackson's in this case, and the salesman that sold him the cars was Billy Durant. The two were of similar mind and struck up a long-lasting friendship. Once back in Oshawa, Sam decided to try a different approach. Rather than do everything in-house, partner with an existing manufacturer to make their cars Canadian style, buy the drive chain of someone's and put his own body on it, basically produce an assembled car. He looked around for a good company to partner with, and his friend Billy Durant suggested a company that he owned at the time, Buick. Now, to be fair, what Durant was really looking for was someone to invest heavily in his new company, General Motors, with Buick as the flagship make of the company. Sam wanted to make cars and was all over the opportunity. However, Sam had to convince his dad and brother. They were supportive of Sam, but not into cars like he was, and so the three together gave Billy a counteroffer. Sell McLaughlin Buick Mechanicals, and they'll build a car from it at their own plant in Ontario. Durant was seriously cash poor at the time, and although it was not what he wanted to do, he was in no position to argue. So in 1907, the McLaughlin Motor Car Company was formed. Sam expanded the Oshawa factory to include car manufacturing, since the facility could already make the car bodies right there. By 1908, the first McLaughlin cars, 154 the first year, were produced. With over 50 years of company experience building top-quality carriages and sleighs, the fit and finish of the McLaughlin cars was far better than the contemporary Buicks. Using the same 4-cylinder, 40-horsepower engine as the Buick 4, these cars were so well built that they could actually survive Canada, and they sold very well on both sides of the border. Billy Durant would form General Motors in 1908, but was ousted by his investors the following year due to some less than stellar business decisions. Yet these directors recognized talent when they saw it, and so, in 1910, asked Sam to join the board of directors, which he did. But he hadn't forgotten his friend Billy, and so the next year Sam loaned him the money to buy a company, Chevrolet. The two of them collaborated to build Chevys in Canada, which they did under McLaughlin's direction. The plan was so successful that in 1915, the two had enough shares between them to put Durant back as president of General Motors. 1918 was a pivotal year for Sam. The family sold off the carriage business to focus solely on building assembly lines for their cars and the Chevrolets they were also building. By this time, Sam was the vice president of General Motors, and the contract that he had with Buick for his own company was about to expire. So, after some negotiation, he sold both the McLaughlin Company and Chevrolet Canada to General Motors, who in turn formed a new company, General Motors Canada, of which Sam was the president and his brother George vice president. In 1923, with the Oshawa facility producing more cars than the rest of Canada combined, the marque was renamed Buick McLaughlin and would remain so until 1942. Sam McLaughlin is a legend in General Motors history and Canadian history in general. He was appointed as an honorary colonel of the Ontario Regiment and often called Colonel Sam in reference to his longtime support of the regiment. He was appointed as a companion of the Order of Canada. He gave away hundreds of millions of dollars to schools, museums, and other foundations. And although he did make American cars in Canada, those cars, like the man himself, were quite unique. Thanks for watching Vintage Car History, and we'll see you next week. Peace.